Jon Jones just had a generational crash out on Twitter last night and announced his retirement in multiple tweets. We're going to go through those tweets today. I'll pop them up here on this side of the screen and we'll go through them together, see what we think, and look at the future of the heavyweight division. Without further ado, let's get right into it. So real quick, over about the past month, Jon Jones will let out a random tweet maybe once a week, once every other week, and a bunch of people will reply, be like, vacate the title, you're getting stripped of the belt, and he'll occasionally respond to people and be like, I don't care, this and that, talk about how he's the greatest all time, and do anything but say that he's going to fight Tom Aspinall. However, he has never had a crash out like he had last night, and the first tweet he releases yesterday, he said, just touched down at LAX, feels great to be back on American soil with the flag, and he immediately starts getting chirped in the comments. Following that, he posts most champions by nationality with USA leading with a picture of him. Tells everyone to catch up, mates, it's lonely up here. And then here's where it starts getting juicy and where he starts responding to people. 5-second break right here. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. We're trying to hit 800 subscribers by June 15th, so every subscribe matters and it's all free. We'll get back to the video now. Somebody said Aspinall is the current heavyweight champ, by the way, and he said, that's awesome. You guys could use one. Well, we know Tom is the interim champ and Jon is the actual champ. And by saying that you guys could use one implies that he's not an active champ anymore and he's not going to be fighting. But there's more we'll get into, a lot juicier ones in this. Blind Bear MMA wanted to ask him a good question about who's going to win between Ilya or Oliveira, and Jon just said that he's interested in watching the highlights. Sounds like he's not even going to watch the actual fight, which is crazy. But it shows how clacked out of MMA he is, because besides Tom, that's the biggest fight we got since we know Ilya Islam's not happening, and Jon's not even going to watch it live. Someone asked him what's his favorite venue he's fought at and why, and he says MGM in the Garden, doesn't explain why. And then there was a tweet that got deleted, but Jon Jones has a response to this, and this is still up. And he says, unfortunately, my boy, talking about Tom, is not as special as his fan base thinks that he is right now. I've seen Tom get tapped out twice now by two different people. Time will show. Here today, gone tomorrow. Basically saying that Tom is not as good as people think he is because he's been submitted twice, which gets rebuked in future tweets coming up. But he's just trying to underplay Tom and Aspinall and make him seem like not a threat to him and that there's no point in Jon fighting him, so that people don't call him a duck when he retires, because this actually is a winnable fight for Tom Aspinall and Jon Jones is ducking this fight. D Wild says, if he isn't that good, why don't you fight him? Great point. Jon Jones responds and says, I remember it like it was yesterday. 3 years since anyone saw me fight. The mass amount of critics. Jones looks so old now. He's too slow now. Ghana is going to be too fast. Jones has never faced someone this big. He's never faced a kickboxer of this caliber. Then Jon says the French and the casuals were convinced Ghana was the future of the heavyweight division. I showed up. I won. Then crickets. So Jon's basically telling us how he beat Gon, and everyone was so convinced that Gon was going to beat Jon Jones, similar to how everyone's convinced Tom is going to beat Jon Jones now. And that's honestly a fair criticism. That's exactly how he viewed that fight, and that's how people are viewing this fight. And what's unfortunate is we'll never get to see how this one unfolds. I think we can all agree that Tom Aspinall is a better fighter than Ciryl Gane. He's way more well-rounded, and because of that, he's way more of a threat to Jon Jones. He'll be able to grapple with Jon Jones, something that Ciryl Gane could not do, which directly lost Ciryl Gane that fight. But unfortunately, we are never going to get to see Tom Aspinall versus Jon Jones in the UFC. Someone responded to Jon Jones. He said he tapped once, and then Jon said, once to me doesn't really make a difference. My point is the kid's not special, and he has no top lip, which I also find annoying. So he's just chirping the fans, chirping Tom Aspinall at this point, playing the villain role quite well. Someone says, you're scared. Really sad to see from someone who should be the GOAT. Jon Jones responds to that and says, it really has nothing to do with fear. The question I ask my close friends and family is how much higher can a person like me climb in the sport? It's bad grammar, by the way. And then he goes on to say, the goal for athletes is to build a brand and then take that brand and become so much more than an athlete. A lot of the fans and fighters are not used to seeing someone go out on top the way I have. Right there, he's saying he's going out on top. He's not taking this other fight that he could lose. He's going out on his terms as champion, which is a point a lot of champions don't go out on top. They have a downward skid, some like Kamaru Usman or Israel Adesanya are having now, and they're likely going to retire on a losing streak or maybe a meaningless win or two. But they're not going out on the top when they were at the game, ruling the world at the top of their division in the UFC. That is what Jon Jones says he's doing right here, which means he's not fighting Tom Aspinall. That is a retirement announcement right there. But he says, I get that it's uncomfortable, and I don't expect people to understand territories that they've never been. So then we have a great response here. He says, completely understandable. With that being said, vacate the belt. Great idea. Jon Jones responds to that and says, I spoke to the UFC a long time ago about what my future plans were. I haven't really worked out since my last fight in New York City. Honestly, I believe it's been in the UFC's best interest to keep presenting me as the company's champion, not Tom. I've just been playing the role of being the accompanying man by doing nothing at all and holding the position. And truthfully, it's been incredibly lucrative. I've made more money off Tom being the interim champ than Tom has himself. It sucks to see the rest of the division get slowed down like this, but that has nothing to do with me. I don't pull the strings. Couple good points brought up here. He doesn't pull the strings. As much as we can hate Jon Jones for this decision, and it is wrong that he's not vacated the belt, it's ultimately up to Dana White and the higher-ups at the UFC to see that Jon Jones is not fighting and then to strip him of the belt so we can progress the heavyweight division as a whole. We have an active interim champ right now who could go down as the heavyweight GOAT. I will be putting out another video about that, but the UFC is stalling his whole prime because Jon Jones wants to hold on to this title and do nothing with it. It is up to the UFC at this point. It is their fault that the division is like this. And then Jon's obviously playing up the villain role by holding on to the belt and mentioning it in this tweet saying it's best for the company. That almost sounds like he's hyping up the fight. He's just trying to get people to dislike him so this fight will be bigger. But by him saying that he's not worked out since his fight back in November, which was 7 months ago, that's just a clear sign that he's not fighting again. Jon deep down knows that Tom Aspinall is a tough opponent for him to beat. I do think it would be a close fight between Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall. And I know that if Jon Jones, with how competitive he is, if he planned on fighting Tom Aspinall, he would be training every day still for this fight, like his life depended on it. Because Jon obviously cares about legacy and how he's perceived. That's why he's tweeting so much about this stuff and talking about legacy, this and that. He cares what people think about him. And if he was going to fight Tom Aspinall, he would be training every day to make sure he has his best chance at winning that fight. Taking 7 months off at this stage means that he is absolutely not planning to fight Tom Aspinall, hence a retirement. Jon then tweeted, Duckboy over here whining and sticking one big FU to the haters at the same time. Quack, quack. And then someone said, how would you defeat Tom? And then Jon said, by not giving him the chance. Guys, again, this is him saying that he's not going to fight Tom Aspinall no matter what. This is a retirement crash out we're seeing right here, right in front of our eyes on Twitter. Someone said, strip Jon and Tom off their belts. And Jon said, that's an interesting take. I'm 37 years old. My body hurts everywhere, if I'm being honest. Funny how Tommy Boy talks zero trash to the studs of his generation, barely even mentions their names. So that's Jon just again saying that his body hurts, which is another indicator again that he's not fighting. Going to his next tweet, Jon says, and remember, you can't strip a guy like me at this point. I give up the belt freely. Veni vidi vici. Jon right there is saying he doesn't care to fight anymore. He's going to give up the belt. And then someone insulted him. He said, did the last kiss make you mad? LOL. And then Jon said, appreciate the folks who corrected me. I said Tom got submitted twice, but turns out it was just once by Kai everyone calls Cousin Earl. Then to get TKO'd by some other random. Tough to remember who did that when there were multiple people involved. And that's Jon again trying to belittle Tom Aspinall and not make him seem like an actual threat in a fight that Jon should take for his legacy. Someone said, you lost against Reyes, bro. And he said, I want you to be a good boy and write that to Dominic every year for at least the next 20 years. Let him know he won. Good man. If you don't know, Jon Jones and Dominic Reyes had a very close fight back in Jon's prime, and a lot of fans thought that Reyes won. It seemed like a rivalry win, but they gave it to Jon Jones, so that is what the reference is here. Someone responded to that and said, whatever helps you sleep good at night. And he said, honestly, I'm jet lagged. Been traveling all day and bored, so yes, I have time to tweet. Figured I'd give my haters some ammunition. I got money to make. Again, playing up the heel role. Someone asked him what got him beat Tom, and Jon says, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. I think things like this happen all the time. Fighters allow me to become their whole identity. They get so focused on me. Meanwhile, the competition is lurking. The big mouth gets bit. Again, Jon Jones trying to belittle Tom there, and then someone responded to that and said, you be praying for that. He said, no, honestly, I wish Tommy no ill will. He is no threat to me whatsoever. Directly trying to belittle him and make this fight not seem important, although it very much so is. He says, he should start with just trying to be the best heavyweight of all time. That goal would be plenty. My career is completely different than Planet, if we're being honest. I don't really hate on other fighters. I'm usually just responding to their envy. Jon still belittling Tom. What do you know? Nothing new here. Trying to make that seem like an unimportant fight so that he doesn't have to fight it. Jon then tweeted out, Jon Jones whipped both of y'all, but hey, why not team up on a podcast and gossip about his life? Meanwhile, he's out here making your annual salary in a week. Stay busy, boys. And then Jon Jones with another reply. This is life in 2025, I guess. And then he tweets out that picture where Tom is waiting for Jon Jones after Jon beats Stipe Miocic and Tom Aspinall was front row staring him down. Jon Jones not even looking at him. And Jon replied to that tweet and said, I call this photo rent-free. Keep the attention of an entire country while doing nothing at all. You know, that's just annoying at this point, but we carry on. We're finally getting close to the end of this crash out. Someone then tweeted out, they said, just saw your DC interview where you dominated, saying nothing you can do to stop me coming after you. You were unstoppable. What's going on now? No GOAT exits with the title stripper ducking. Why not retire after Stipe? Step up one last time. Don't let this be your legacy. That is what we all agree with. People would have called him a duck if he retired right after Stipe, but it would have been forgotten pretty quickly. But the fact that we're over half a year later and this is still getting drug out, this is something at this point that will affect his legacy. I still believe he'll be the greatest of all time until we see someone better, because we always see someone better. That's how every sport ever goes. However, now that it's gotten dragged out so much, this is going to be a stain on his legacy, and it will have meaningful impact, especially when that next GOAT comes around, whoever it may be. But Jon responds and he says, that's the problem with some young men. You think that your last outcome is your legacy. That's why many of you fall short. You can't find the strength to return. But here's the truth. Your legacy isn't your last move. Legacy is what no one can take from you. It's built over time, not defined by a single win or loss. If you're reading this, your legacy is far from over. We wake up each day with a chance to build, to add, make yours beautiful. Inspirational words from Jon Jones right there. Right, legacy is not a single win or loss, but dragging this out for multiple years, being the longest champ ever, being inactive, having Aspinall be the longest interim champ ever, that is stuff that affects a legacy. People are going to remember this ridiculous chapter in your life. Now, I know a lot of people forget Jordan's Washington Wizards era, but when you're actually debating who's the GOAT, that's a notable era because LeBron James has not had that type of era. Well, this is Jon Jones' MJ Wizard era right here. Like, this is completely trash, and this is going to hinder him in the future when the LeBron of MMA comes around, whoever that may be years from now. Jon then tweeted that exact same tweet out again, and in response he said, had to post that one again, bars, and then he said, good night, nerds. Someone tweeted out, I came, I saw, I conquered. That's what you did, sir. Thank you for the memories, Jon. It's just someone glazing. Jon Jones just responds to that, hyping that up. And that is last night's crash out from Jon Jones on Twitter. He seeks attention and he seeks validation. This is nothing new if you've been following Jon Jones throughout his career. But multiple tweets in there where he basically said, without saying, that he's not going to fight again. But if you've made it this far, let me know in the comments what you think. I respond to every single comment, so if you leave your thoughts, I will respond to you. Do you think Jon is retiring? What do these tweets mean? Is he the GOAT? Is he not the GOAT? How does this affect his legacy? Let me know what you guys think about this whole situation, and I will see you guys in the next one. Subscribe. Doses.